Good morning. Billy again. And I was inspired to tell a little bit of a story about first time I tattooed. So I was scared shitless the very first time I tattooed. In fact, I was pretty scared for quite a while. You know, you never want to mess anybody up. You never want to put something on somebody that's going to be there forever and it's going to be shit, frankly. But my first time of tattooing, I was 12 years old. I had a neighbor who, at the time, I didn't know, but kind of figured it out, especially as years went by, who had done some time, and I had been really into like the hair metal and stuff as it was coming up. You know, Motley Crue, and they had like tons and tons of tattoos, and I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Now, back a little bit, when I was probably 6 years old, my Uncle Jerry, had tattoos. He had like love and hate on his knuckles, and he had a little TNT that was exploding, and I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So I asked him, I said, "How do you get those? I want those." And he said, "No, no, you don't." I said, "No, I do. I want tattoos as well." So he ended up telling me that, you know, you go to a man that does it for you and you pay him. And I said, "Like a job?" And he said, yeah, kind of like a job. And I was like, wow, I want to do that. So about 6 years later, one of my neighbors taught me how to make a tattoo machine, taught me how to make prison ink. At the time, I didn't know that's what it was, but that's what it was. It was prison ink. It was like shampoo, soot from burning plastic and stuff on, where the soot collects on a glass and you scrape it. And then I cannibalized a toy that I had. It was a stomper. You put a battery in it, and it would just go, it would just drive. That's all I did was go forward. It didn't go backwards. It didn't turn. It was pretty lame toy. But as as a kid, I want to say I might have paid like $3 or $4 for it when it was, when it was new. So I didn't really care. Now I've looked back. I've looked on eBay, and like the one specific one that I had turned into a tattoo machine. I think it was like $75 on eBay, and I was like, man, I probably should have kept all those. But hindsight's 2020. So I ended up making this tattoo machine with a ballpoint pen. I believe it was just like a needle that I had soldered to like a bar, and it was a rotary. It was shitty. It was so shitty. It was so sloppy. But I tattooed one of the neighbor kids, and then I tattooed another neighbor kid, and then I didn't even tattoo myself yet at that point. I was just doing it on other people. I think I did like a cross and a heart. I think I did like a star, but it was not a real good star. And I'm glad that I don't have any photos of any of that. And I know the one cross I covered up years and years and years later. And that one I had done on a kitchen table at a party house I used to live at. And I had a good time with it. And then years later, I ended up taking up an actual apprenticeship, and started tattooing for real. Um, actually making money, making a living, and I had a great time with that. Um, and I miss it a little bit. Um, but again, since my fall, I can't really use my hand as like I used to, and I can't trust that I can tattoo anybody with good results. And I don't want to, back to the beginning, I don't want to fuck anybody up. So, yeah, I don't know that I'll ever get back to it. I really kind of hope I do, but if I don't, something else will come along the way. And, currently I can still use my hand. It's just not as steady as it used to be. And it's almost like, the best way I can describe it is when your hand is really cold and you can't, it just doesn't function the way it should. It's slower, it's tighter, it just doesn't work the way it should. And it's clumsy. And I go back to the doctor next week. I think it's Monday. So we'll see what he has to say and see if there's anything I can do. I've already been through 2 surgeries on my arm, my elbow, my shoulder. I have a tendon issue. My pinky doesn't come all the way up anymore. So it doesn't necessarily hurt much. I mean, I had already had like a tendon issue back in like '96. But they say that it ruptured. They think it ruptured somewhere in here. And so, and since it's been well over a year now, they just said because you have 2 here, 1 here, 1 here, 2 here, there's still 1 attached. So I mean, it still closes. It just doesn't come up. So they said that they don't usually do anything for that. So yeah, so that's pretty much the story of the first time I tattooed. And I mean, like I said, I had a great time with it. I can't complain. I did end up having to close my shop. I had to close in December last year, and was officially out of there in January of this year. So hopefully, things will get better. Hopefully my hand will get better. I know there's a lot going on, like, that I can't really talk about legally with a lawsuit and all, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully they can help compensate my loss. I mean, it wasn't the fall that necessarily like closed the business. It was like a multitude of things. They had sold the property. The owner had sold the property. She was old. She's like 90, in her early 90s, and I'd been there for 14 years, and they were great people. I mean, I wish they would have given us a little more warning. But they sold the property. The new property owners dicked around, wouldn't give us any information of what they were going to do, and after a while, the other people I had working for me had to find other places. So they all found, new shops, and I'm grateful for that. I'm glad that they could find places to work. The one was no problem. The other was a newer tattooer. She had only actually been tattooing for maybe 3 or 4 months, maybe 6 months at the most. When she had to find another shop, and thankfully she did. It's a little hard when you're that early and that new. But yeah, so she's doing well, and I'm actually supposed to go with my cousin, I think next month. She's getting tattooed by her, so I'm gonna go in with her and hang out and catch up and show off that I've lost almost 70 pounds. I mean, this is now an XL. This was I was pushing 4X, and now I'm in an XL, and I'm pretty stoked about that. Yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to, kind of put my video in today and say hi and let you guys know a little more about myself. So, hope you guys all have a good day, and I'll see you tomorrow, and yeah, have a great day.